Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Supernatural Selection. I'm your host, Kevin the Bastard. With me this week, again, are Mike the Skeptic. Mike?
Hello?
Hello.
Why are you in my bedroom?
Look, let's not talk about this in public.
I mean, but you're shoving a microphone in my face in my bedroom. I was trying to sleep.
Be glad it's just my microphone.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I want to go on record as saying I'm doing this episode of the podcast under duress.
Better than under a bridge.
You can't see me, but I'm blinking SOS.
Better in duress rather than undressed, I guess.
Why am I wearing a dress?
You're just so damn pretty.
Did you dress me in my sleep?
I did.
Again.
I did. You're just so darn pretty. Damn it. We also have Mr. David Davis. David, how you doing?
I am over the moon.
What a segue.
No, seriously, I'm over it.
Yeah, no, you're all going to be over it pretty quick. We are starting a 2-part series on moon conspiracies.
I was gonna say, you better not be over it yet. You still got this hour and then probably another hour next week.
God, yeah, I know. I got to try to find information on my topic. Mike, I know you've got yours. But this week, we're letting David start us off with his always well-researched stuff. And David, what is your topic this week?
Well, I am going to be talking about the moon landing conspiracy and various aspects of it, but I just want to point out that we had originally intended to do one episode with 3 theories, and I said, Kevin, look, you know me. I wrote 10 pages on the Krampus.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to fit my part into with 3 other parts in it, so...
That's true.
Yeah, I went ahead and did a whole episode.
And that's
seen
fine.
The link to the script?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's fine. It's fine. It's giving us so much to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We've got some strong opinions about this one.
But in some moon trivia today, I read a news story about the the Chinese they landed a rover on the far side of the moon. Mm-hmm. So something their little rover has found is that the far side of the moon is covered in holes and is sticky.
So it's a teenager's face. Just covered in holes and sticky.
Yes.
Okay, that's gross.
Well, actually, it's just that it's full of more craters, which we kind of do that. And but apparently the soil on that side's more clingy than the near side.
It's wet.
Wet moon.
Big old wet moon.
Ew. Just fucking ew.
They call it the dark side for a reason.
It's moist.
Moist moon. The moist moon theory.
I don't like where this is going.
We lost like 90% of our female listeners. So I'm sorry to hear you two ladies leave. But
yeah, bye, Holly.
Bye, Kit. So, you're handling moon landing conspiracy, huh?
Uh-huh, yeah, and I feel all the dumber for having dived into this.
Oh, yeah, man.
I think we'll all feel dumber by the end of this run.
Oh, yes, this will be a very fun one, I think, as well, though. But you're going to be upset.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm already upset just thinking about it.
So, yeah, I guess I can go ahead and start.
By all means. Why wait? Just stick the knife in.
So I always like to kind of give a shout out to the resources I'm using.
Of course.
I'm borrowing heavily from a Rolling Stone article titled "A Brief History of Conspiracy Theories About the Moon Landing." It's pretty much what you expect. It's a well-researched article, well-written, worked as a good overview. I have a few other sources that I'm using, including History.com. But if I use any other source, I'll mention it during the spiel you're about to hear.
Right.
So just, doing my due diligence, doing the research, that sort of thing.
And we'll interrupt as we see fit to bring up things and make with the ha-ha.
I certainly hope so, because this could get pretty dry.
Oh, boy. Unlike the backside of the moon.
Ooh.
That big, wet moon.
That moist moon butt.
Ugh. The moon has swamp ass.
Okay, so let's talk about conspiracies about the moon landing.
Please.
So, as we've talked about on this podcast a few times now, humans have a somewhat conspiratorial mindset.
Yeah, and
You don't say.
I was going to say, a lot of that's like pattern recognition, I believe.
Yeah, and I'll talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I want to quote a favorite character from a favorite TV show of mine. The character said, "The minute God crapped out the third caveman, a conspiracy was hatched against one of them."
Yeah,
Do we recognize that quote from anything?
I do not. What is that from?
That is Colonel Hunter Gathers from the Venture Brothers.
Ah, okay. It's been a long time since I saw that.
Yeah, I've not watched a whole lot of VB.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to rectify that because that's an amazing show.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's
But
on
that
the
quote-
list.
That quote is absolutely incredible because I think it says everything about like how we're wired.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's a lot of truth to that.
So, the idea is that like this human impulse for conspiracy is, it's a commonality between cultures throughout history, and one of those like strange leftovers of our cultural and social evolution for thousands of years.
Right.
You have two people, one of them's at least planning on how to get one up on the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. That's just
It's a holdover from survival instinct.
So when we talk about conspiracy theory, data indicates that the vast majority of Americans, about 80% of us in a 2019 Insider poll, that was tied to the storm of Area 51. Do you remember that? Where it was like, oh, let's storm Area 51.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to Naruto run that shit.
Yeah, that one dude showed up. Yeah.
Yeah, about 80% of people in the U.S. believe in some form of conspiracy, according to that poll.
It's kind of understandable, though, right, Mike?
Well, so
A conspiracy.
if there's, I can't say I'm immune either. So
Yeah, like I've got a specific quote here. According to a new Insider poll, nearly 80% of Americans believe in at least one unscientific idea. Theories surrounding wellness are more popular. 2/3 of respondents held at least one pseudoscientific health belief. A third of Americans said that they believe in at least one conspiracy theory.
So,
So-
I feel like I'm pulling weight for somebody else.
me,
Yeah.
Well, you two are kind of like a unit, like where one goes, the other follows, or vice
Yeah.
versa.
Well,
So,
I mean, like
yeah.
Mike doesn't believe in many, and I just sort
You've
of,
got enough belief for the both of you.
yeah, got it. Son, you're gonna carry that weight.
So, part of what drives conspiracy theory is that humans love to recognize patterns and solve puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
And conspiracies can be unorthodox ways to solve problems in troubling times.
they also like to feel like smarter than everyone else.
Yes.
So,
The real truth.
Exactly. And this is exactly why we kind of gravitate collectively towards outsider beliefs in the way the world works.
Right.
So, according to Psych Central, quote, painful and uncertain times may lead people to find alternative ways to make sense of such a shocking or painful situation. Following a conspiracy theory might help you feel you understand the events, and in turn, this can alleviate some uncertainty and anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, another quote from Psych Central. Preliminary research also suggests that belief in conspiracy theories is linked to people's need for uniqueness. The higher the need to feel special and unique, the more likely a person is to believe in the conspiracy theory. So I know that I'm preaching to the converted here.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to establish this because in doing research for this episode, it made me realize that this topic here is part of the reason why we're going through so much shit right now.
Oh God, yes.
And we're going to have to do a genealogy of conspiracy episode at some point because all these things build up.
Yeah.
I would also say that modern media probably has a small to medium part in this because how many times is the crazy nut job that nobody believes turned out to be like right? Mm-hmm. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it kind of fuels people to think, well, they say I'm
he's
crazy,
right about that.
but they say I'm crazy, but aren't the crazy ones the right ones? Like, no, not
Well-
in real life. No.
What if there is cancer in them French fries?
what if the asteroid is going to hit us?
Yeah. And like, and you're right, we are going to have to go back and do a genealogy of this sort of stuff because we got to talk about Bill Cooper begetting Alex Jones, begetting this hell world we live in.
Yep.
So, yeah, that'll be
Bible of nut jobs.
What was it? What was the name you came up with earlier today, David? The relay race of stupidity?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. Now, have you ever heard of the Ramsey theory?
Is that where like the Pharaoh? I don't have anything really.
Is this Dave
This just
Ramsey?
makes me think of a Pharaoh.
So I'm going to bring a little math here, and this is I'm not a math major, so let's take this with a grain of salt. But in thinking about how conspiracy theories work and how we kind of read into situations, there's this mathematical basis for it, for this paranoid thinking called the Ramsey theory. It's based on the work of mathematician and philosopher Frank P. Ramsey. The theory focuses on the appearance of order within a structure of a known size.
Yeah.
So, like, you have a collection of letters, and you're going to be able to find words within those letters. You're going to create meaning. From
Right,
that.
right.
So, a great example of this would be like the Bible.
Oh, God. Are we talking about Bible codes?
Yes. So it's a set text of a certain size. However, you can apply it any number of ways within that text to uncover new words and messages within it. Essentially, our brains are going to find those patterns if we set out to do so.
Yeah.
So all of this is playing out into like how this fake moon landing theory happened, and we're going to cover all that. But again, I'm bringing all this up because conspiracy theories are something that the vast majority of Americans are likely to indulge in. I'm sure that anyone listening to this podcast has at one point felt in a moment of frustration that the world is out to get them. Right? You've had a really bad day. And it's like, the world's against me.
Yeah. Every day. Every
Right.
single day.
So I'm not intending to like demonize the conspiratorial mindset here.
It can be a
because-
healthy thing. It can
Yes.
be.
But I do want to bring this up because when the mindset is left unchecked and unreasoned, it can result in real problems, which we're dealing with the fallout.
And I'm going to say this. I think everyone needs a mic to sit there and pull them back from the edge like Mike does with me.
Yeah.
We'll eventually make a Mike the Skeptic, like, talky stuffed doll.
An app, a mic app.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No.
Knock you down off the ledge.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you're full of shit, right? Yeah.
It's just a button on the app that when you press it, it goes no.
Oh God.
I love the idea of a no button with Mike's face on it.
I know. I mean, yes. Sometimes that yes, everybody at work is talking behind your back, but most of the time, probably not.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, and I mean, if that's the case, then that's your intuition telling you about a situation where there are obvious signs that something's wrong.
Yes.
Right.
That's not a bad thing. That's where the skepticism and that's where the conspiratorial nature is a benefit.
But then it goes off the rails.
Oh yeah, yeah. Then
Spiral.
it becomes I'm gonna stop paying my taxes.
Oh yeah, there's a lot
I'm
of
a
stuff about
sovereign
taxes in this
citizen.
one.
Oh God.
Yeah, and also I want to point out that like we're in a unique well, we're not in a unique situation, but like America is in a we hit a point a few decades ago where conspiracy was easy to breed because we definitely sort of lost our innocence as a nation and we lost trust for the ruling parties.
I think it's more immediate to us here, but it's happening worldwide, baby. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, but I'm just talking about like for to be sort
America
of
first, baby. We did it first.
geopolitically centric.
I mean,
America in the 70s, we definitely hit a point where it's like I can't trust anybody.
Oh yeah, and
but-
we're going to be talking about that.
Yeah.
I think it just seems that way because we hear our local
Yeah.
or nationwide news, but
Well, no, I mean, I
Britain
listen-
and the 5G towers.
Oh Jesus,
Setting
yeah, no,
fire
that
to 'em,
and
and-
that is all fucking David Icke right there, and Australia is definitely like I know like their lockdown was like super serious and everything, but like there are some very hardcore conspiracies about the vaccine down there.
No, well, worldwide, there's a lot. Like pretty much
Yeah.
all first world nations have large like vaccine conspiracies going on.
Well, and I'm gonna say that a lot of this that's going on right now, even in other countries, I think it comes down to theories like this moon landing conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Because I think there's like a direct connection. I mean, you have this, and you have the theories that came out of Bill Cooper.
Yeah.
So
And you could really, this moon landing thing, a lot of people, this and flat Earth are like baby's first conspiracy theory.
right, and here's another thing: if someone doesn't believe that we landed on the moon, what are the odds that they're going to believe a vaccine works?
Oh yeah, no, that's a given. So
I could almost understand the moon landing conspiracies because it's a pretty big, it was a pretty big accomplishment. Like in the 60s, the era of, cars were carbureted. They had, it was all completely, mechanical, yet we
shot people to the moon.
put two dudes on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So
and we're going to talk about that because that there is some validity to the skepticism. There's totally
Right.
a reason to be skeptical.
And it's something you can't really research yourself. You can't,
you can't go up there.
you can't go up there. You can't see it with your own eyes.
Can get a decent telescope and see
Well,
it.
not really. No.
Okay.
The only thing you can do, I mean, if you have a powerful enough laser, you could do the retroreflectors on the moon.
Oh right, those things.
But you can't see, even the orbiters around the moon can barely make out the landing sites. It's just like a dark smudge.
Okay.
What they should have done is they should have just put a big old hello world across the surface of the moon, and
They should have just carved their names in giant letters across the moon.
Oh,
except-
have a big old dick.
oh, that too. Oh man, could you imagine?
Okay, that's it. I'm going to KC. We're putting dick butt on the face of the moon.
So I'm talking about all these conspiracy theory things because I think it's a good background to this, but I want to
Right.
explore how the fake moon landing conspiracy, one of the sillier and initially one of the more harmless theories out there, has actually had this outsized effect on American society.
Oh, absolutely. And I wanna hear how this really got started.
Right. And, to put it bluntly, this conspiracy that the moon landing was faked has a direct line to today's extremely harmful conspiracies on vaccination, the secret cabal of child blood drinking elite.
I should put this cup of child blood down then.
The
Exactly.
adrenochrome.
Yeah.
And, of course, falsified election claims being run through a deep state. So, you just got all these, theories that it all links back to.
Yep.
But, enough about that. Let's talk about the fucking moon landing.
Let's talk
go.
about it.
So, as of 2022, only 12 people in human history have set foot on the lunar surface.
Yep.
Only 12 people.
That's pretty goddamn mind blowing.
And none of them since the early 70s.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to develop some kind of way of creating an elite class on our planet, I suggest that this is the metric.
Really? Not the Five Timers Club on Saturday Night Live? We're going with the
Right.
moon landings?
Which of us has set a foot on another heavenly body? I think that's the metric. If you're gonna, the modern gods, basically. If we're gonna make modern gods, I have ridden the mighty moon worm. That's
It's like in the actually, just a quick aside, in the Wheel of Time stories in the first book, they talk about stories from the age before the Age of Legends, and one of them is the story of Lyn, who flew to the moon in the belly of a fiery eagle, and it's like, holy shit, that's Earth. That's John Glenn.
Yeah.
10,000 years later.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly it.
And it also kind of speaks to something of the character of the guys, because you think, you said elite class, but really, I think only one of them actually went on to do any kind of, politics. And the rest of them just kind of were like, hey, I'm done.
I'm going to play golf.
I think
I think
Neil,
I accomplished something.
I think Neil Armstrong stuck around and stuck around with NASA for a while, but not in a astronaut
Do you guys have anything for me to do?
Well, no, I mean, so a lot of in NASA and their thing, astronauts. Okay, the head of astronauts, the person that like picked astronauts to go on missions, is traditionally a former astronaut themselves. So I think he stuck around and did that for a while. I should have done a little more research on this, but
Yeah, it's okay.
but yeah, they really kind of didn't use this as a stepping stone to something, you know, quote unquote better. I wouldn't say better, but you know, they didn't
More,
ride that
something
pony.
more.
Yeah, they didn't. You didn't
They
see
didn't
like
use momentum from this to go somewhere.
I
Except for
don't
John
know.
Buzz
Glenn.
Aldrin, Buzz Aldrin as a spokesperson for BVTs. These underwear got me to the moon. Give me my $3 million.
If I walked on the surface of the moon, I think I'd call it like, you know, I'm done. I've accomplished something. I'm good.
Yeah.
And there's also, you hear about the overview effect, like,
Oh,
astronauts that are able to see the whole Earth kind of, shifts their perspective.
Yeah, the whole pale blue dot thing.
Like
Yeah.
Soviet astronauts, or cosmonauts, I guess I should say. These are people fed with propaganda, but they apparently were some of the most vocal people for working like with NASA. They're like, we need to work together. So I don't know. There could just be something about that.
I believe the term is a humbling experience.
Yes.
Yes. So
Well, and it's also that idea of seeing just how fragile everything is.
yeah.
I gotta imagine being on the lunar surface, realizing that there is a thin layer of a few thin layers of like fabric and foil keeping you from your insides turning out.
Oh yeah.
It's got to be something it fucks with your head, man. Before I continue, though, I just want to point out that my wife came into the room and she wrote down a note because I had said something about setting foot on a heavenly body. She wrote, "I'll set foot on your heavenly body." Rimshot.
Man, I'm glad somebody made that joke, and I'm glad I didn't have to do it.
It'd be a little weird if you said it to me, man.
Yeah.
I love you, but
Yeah, well,
not Eros.
a little bit of arrows, but still.
A little bit of Eros.
So let's continue. 12 men have stepped on the moon and aren't our supreme leaders.
So part of the reason why so many theories exist about the moon comes from the commonality of a lack of direct experience with the moon itself.
Right.
We can see it floating in the night sky, appearing and disappearing repeatedly over time. So there's this quasi-mysticality to it that the vast majority of human history has experienced when it comes to the moon.
And if you do research, a lot of the earliest religions were either solar cults or lunar cults.
Oh yeah. Or
exactly.
kind of both.
Yeah.
They're the dualities
Yes.
of the sky. And I would say in modern society, the moon is vastly underappreciated.
Well,
very much
also, like, light pollution has done a lot to that. But,
Even with light pollution, the moon is still one of the,
okay, yeah.
best, easiest to see bodies. Like
funny
I don't think it's
story.
lost a lot of, even in the biggest cities, you probably see it fairly well.
Are you saying it's been eclipsed by other things?
That's what I was trying not to say.
Well, here's a funny story. Did you realize that people don't look up? Like, the number of people that look up at the moon has dropped so much that when people see it now, it often gets reported as a UFO.
I've heard of that.
That's
so
terrifying.
sad.
That blows my mind.
Traditionally, like, the moon's supposed to set our imaginations on fire. Our hardwired impulses for pattern recognition has even caused us to see faces on it, right?
Right. I mean, I've never seen it, but yeah.
So you've never seen the face on the moon?
Nope, just black spots, man. I am the worst with Rorschach tests.
Isn't like the Chinese, they see it as a rabbit.
The Japanese.
Or Japanese, yeah. Someone saw it as a rabbit.
Yeah, they see it as a rabbit, and I'll look at it, and I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. This is like
What do you do with
constellations.
clouds? How do you do with clouds? Can you see things in the clouds?
Yeah, I can
have.
kind of see things in clouds, but like somebody's really gonna have to like go in Photoshop and draw the face for me.
Did you strangle your inner child? What's going on here?
My inner child was abducted.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Probed in
By
the butt.
the child blood drinking elites.
yeah. My child was a victim of a pluck and fuck.
Oh no!
Yep.
God.
Sorry.
Oh, that just went south.
Yep.
More
Let's
like a
move
pluck
on.
and probe.
Yeah.
Right. So, plus the distance from the moon makes it feel less like something that's part of our lives.
Yeah.
For many people, it's just some big abstract thing in the sky with very little bearing on them. Like, they don't even really put the connection between the moon and the tides, especially if you live inland.
Yeah. Or,
But
or
let's ta-
yeah. or sure.
But let's talk about that disconnect between human experience and the moon.
Absolutely.
And that idea that the moon landing was fake.
Okay.
So we're about 53 years out from the lunar landing on July 20th, 1969.
Jesus Christ.
Right. Since then, three distinct generations have been born. Mm-hmm. Right? So this is a momentous triumph of humankind, right? The likes of which haven't been replicated for a long time, at least since the invention of the Hot Pocket and Cherry Coke.
You say as I finish my cherry Coke.
Good man.
That does blow my mind, though, when you say that, because I'm like, holy shit, they landed on the moon just 8 years before I was born.
It's mind-blowing to think about that.
That's insane. Like, I still, on some level, thought, ages ago. No, it really wasn't that long ago, goddammit. My sister was alive for that.
Mm-hmm. This event was broadcast around the world on television,
Oh, yeah.
cementing the technology of the television as a cultural unifier and exposing millions of people across the world simultaneously through the technology in such a way that it would have dire repercussions in the future. Mm-hmm. Again, like television, it becomes a major thing because of this moon landing, the way it's able to feed this information to millions upon millions of people. Well, that's become a double-edged sword.
Indeed.
So Kevin, I had to look it up, but so you said, how long ago? Actually, it's closer than that because the last moon landing was 72.
Jesus.
So it was only 4 years before you were born.
Holy
76,
crap.
right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So 4 years for you, 5 years for me. I mean,
Jeez.
that's just, you don't think about it that way.
No, it's staggering.
That's just it's crazy to think about because I was born in 87, so I'm like further removed than you guys, but still it wasn't that long ago.
No.
And so have either of you ever looked at the moon through a telescope?
I've looked at it through binoculars.
So when you look at it when you look at it through a telescope, it is pretty awe-inspiring.
It is.
This was
you can make out.
This was the cheapest.
Craters.
This was a telescope that was just found. It was one of those really cheap ones you could buy at Walmart that I had zip tied to a camera tripod because
I remember that.
The tripod that I found with it was all bent up.
Oh shit! Was this that time you and me went to the Natchez Trace?
No, this was in my backyard.
Okay. I thought it was when we went to Raymond.
But just as a proof of trying it out, I looked at the moon because it was literally the only thing I could look at because anything. It could probably see Mars and Saturn and stuff, but the tripod was not stable enough. So the only thing I could really get to in view was the moon, and it was pretty amazing, I have to say. There's something about being able to see it actually with your eyes and not a picture that really, I don't know, it's just different.
I understand.
Yeah, I'm with you there because I took an astronomy class. It was one of my favorite classes I ever took. The professor was great. But he rented out a football stadium at the high school, and we just spent the night doing. It was during the Perseid meteor shower.
Ooh.
And we just spent the night recording meteors, and you get a point for every meteor that you could successfully log. Ooh. And then he had telescopes out, so you could look at all the constellations. There was no light pollution. You could look at the moon, and the moon was just beautiful.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it was honestly a magical thing because I had my blanket, I had my foldy chair, had a thermos full of coffee. I even had a red light so that way I wouldn't fuck with my eyes as I was writing down the meteors and stuff like that.
Cool.
But bringing up that television thing, this was 650 million people watching this moment, the first moon landing.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
That number hasn't been beaten since the wedding of Princess Diana.
You'll never get those kind of numbers again either.
You probably will. The population keeps exploding. Although, for being on
the
television,
same thing.
Yeah, I guess, with the die off of broadcast television. I wouldn't say die off, but the the reduction in importance of broadcast television and the,
But it's
popularity of streaming means a lot of people are probably like, oh, I'll watch it in 30 minutes or something,
yeah.
Yeah.
There's not the immediateness of live television anymore.
So yeah, we have this like 650 million people who see it on TV. Despite this massive audience, however, inevitably come the doubters.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've seen the original, like the broadcast footage. It was pretty terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to it later.
But in this case, our main doubter, the guy I want to focus on, he's often fingered for the origin of the fake moon landing conspiracy, was William Casing. So, as early as 1969, just after the lunar landing was broadcast on television, Casing was already calling bullshit. So, Casing would self-publish in 1976 his book, We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 Billion Swindle.
Okay, I just want to throw out there how difficult it must have been to self-publish in the 70s.
Honestly, not super hard. We'll talk a little bit about that.
I'm pretty sure there was like houses that would do that. But so does anybody else think, Russian disinformation agent?
Actually, I didn't think of that, but I kind of think it was much more along the lines of...
He wouldn't be the guy. He wouldn't be a Russian. Because I'm going to get into his biography a little bit. He wouldn't have been a Russian disinformation agent because he thought that Russians were full of shit too.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. But yeah, his book is meant to explain his position that Americans were gullible assholes and that the government was lying to everybody.
Okay.
So Casing would go on to claim that all 6 of the Apollo program moon landings were hoaxes. And his claims are fivefold. In his book, he argues that 1, NASA lacked the technical expertise to land on the moon. 2, the absence of stars in the photos and films of the lunar surface indicate a hoax.
Oh, that shit.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
3, several optical anomalies in the photos provide evidence of a hoax.
Is this the stuff where, like, the plus sign goes behind it? Yeah, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. 4, the lack of dust clouds and blast craters beneath the landers. All this stuff can be explained, by the way. And then 5, the death of Thomas Barron as evidence of a cover-up. And he eventually would link in several more deaths of astronauts to this larger conspiracy in a very, very distasteful way.
Yeah, of course.
Here's a question. Did he, like, link it back to, like, what was it, Apollo 1 or Gemini 1? The one that they had the oxygen fire?
Yeah, if you're talking about the death of Gus Grissom.
Yes.
Yes. He ties it back to that as well.
Okay. I just want to make sure he had his bases covered.
Oh, yeah, it's fucked, man.
Okay.
So obviously most of these claims can be disproven, We'll talk about those specific claims and how they're disproven. But with the release of this book, the die was cast and the conspiratorial-minded had found something that was a perfect conspiratorial vessel. Like people who were like not trusting of the government, which there would be a whole hell of a lot of them in the 1970s.
Oh, yeah.
Had something to latch onto.
This is all Watergate, right?
Right. So, and here's the question, like, how do you prove the moon landing? After all, without going to the moon, how can you prove that people have gone to the moon?
What are we
going to do? We need to send another rocket up there. We need to send an astronaut there to take live video of, oh, wait, no, that wouldn't work because, you can just fake the live video.
Again.
There's no way of winning.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, that's why conspiracies like that, take root is because there's really no good way to debunk them.
Okay, I got a great idea. We just launch all these conspiracy guys about the moon landing into space.
Like that episode of South Park with the whale.
Yeah.
They just put the whale on the moon.
Yeah.
There you go. So, again, just to reiterate, only 12 people in the history of humankind have set foot on the lunar surface, allegedly.
Yes.
So, it becomes 12 people's claims against potentially millions of doubters, obviously. So it's like a numbers game at this point. There's no way that you're going to convince all of these people because, well, there's only 12 people who can really, make the argument and they're not going to be believed.
Yeah. And also, even if they could, sit down face to face and, convince these people, just by sheer numbers, they could never, talk to everyone.
And if you're Buzz Aldrin, you're likely to punch him in the face.
Oh yeah, well yeah.
God bless Buzz Aldrin.
So let's talk a little bit about William Casing. He's an interesting figure. I think he's a very he was a very troubled person, but I don't even know if he's still alive. But he also, he had some issues. So,
Right.
Born July 31st, 1922, William Charles Casing was born in Chicago, but as a child moved to South Pasadena, California. And a lot of his story is like right in my backyard, which is interesting. Because we had a lot of rocket people here in California. Mm-hmm. You had who was it? Not Von Braun. Who was the other guy who was with Aleister Crowley, and they were fucking in the desert?
Yes, yeah. Oh my God, I know who you mean.
Yeah. Or they're trying to create the Moonchild with the Scarlet Woman.
Oh,
so they're just banging in the desert.
Neubird.
Yeah.
That's not the one he fucked into insanity, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
No. That was
that's the
Crowley.
one.
That guy.
No, it wasn't with Aleister Crowley. It was with L. Ron Hubbard. What the fuck am I talking about?
Oh yeah, no, it was Hubbard and the missile guy. I can't remember his name.
It's easy to confuse Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard. They had the same shape.
And the thing is, they were related. And I don't mean like related. I mean like
by blood.
The dude that Hubbard was doing the ritual with was a disciple of Crowley's.
Oh, so they're Kevin Bacon related.
Kevin Bacon related, yes.
6
also,
degrees of Aleister Crowley.
Yes, I just found out Casing died in 2005 at the age of 82.
Okay. All right.
So,
I just
slander
it slipped
that
my mind to
motherfucker
check when he died. Yeah. Casing, he would serve as a Navy midshipman during World War II. Mm-hmm. He attended Navy Officers Training School. He went to the University of Southern California and earned a BA in English Literature from the University of Redlands, which is like right in my backyard.
Oh, wow.
So he's an educated guy. What stands out to me is
stupid.
Right. Well, he stands so far he seems like perfectly reasonable, intelligent here, especially when he starts getting his jobs. Mm-hmm. So nothing here speaks to the conspiracy-laden mind he would become. However, that would change. So after graduating high school, and this is one thing that I've noticed about his biography, he jumps around to different jobs a lot. So there's a restlessness to him. So, after graduating high school, he worked in a furniture factory for 1 week, said, nope, this isn't for me. And then he went to go work on a fishing boat and got paid in fish.
I'm hoping he sold the fish and not tried to pay rent with the fish.
I couldn't fucking figure it out, man. I don't know.
Where do you deposit fish?
Is there a fish bank?
This is the biggest mystery of everything.
This is a bigger mystery than the moon landing.
Right. So, he'd float through these different jobs throughout the years. He'd be a salesman. He'd work in insurance claims. He'd be a cabinet maker. And he'd eventually, settle down a little bit on writing, freelance writing, that sort of thing.
About fish.
Well, the writing would eventually lead him to becoming a technical writer for Rocketdyne Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
Okay.
That's kind of ironic.
Yeah, this would be around 1956. And a technical writer doesn't need to know about the technology. I've done some of this. It's more about being able to put the technical information into readable text because STEM majors are not good at that.
Essentially, jargon translator.
You're writing copy, and you're
Right.
So this is about 1956. Obviously, before the moon landing, but the seeds are planted for jet propulsion, and we're gonna get to space eventually. That's where all this is heading.
We've got our Nazis.
Right. So in 1956, same year he got the job as a technical writer, he'd be promoted to a service analyst position. Do that for a couple years, and then later he became service engineer. And then in 1962, he became a publications analyst, and he would resign in 1963. So, number one, the date in 1963, obviously they're working towards the moon landing here at this point. But this is before like all the major things kind of like kick off, right?
Yeah.
So he leaves before like we get to the meat and potatoes of the whole space race there. But the point is that he spent a lot of time at a jet propulsion laboratory, and he got promoted pretty high up, I would say. So, you know, that's part of his, like, quote-unquote pedigree
That's
for,
his,
like, why people believe him.
and this is also his, why you should believe me.
Exactly. So, it was after he retired, something about him changed. We're not sure what caused it, but he began to suffer from chronic anxiety.
I'm going to go with a stroke.
Maybe. Basically, like, the anxiety was eventually, like, it became full-blown disillusionment with modern life. It became so severe that he got rid of the family television, radio, and the newspaper subscription, and then forced his family into a wandering lifestyle that eventually broke the family apart.
Wow. You know, you know what? I'm glad he went with moon conspiracy instead of, say, mail bombs.
Right, right. And like at first, this crisis isn't a necessary. Like, obviously, it broke up a family, but I'm sure the family was glad to get out of the situation.
Oh, yeah,
but
no.
it wasn't necessarily a bad thing either because he seemed comfortable for a time. Now, I'm going to quote from an article by Darren King about casing. Quote, he bought a trailer with bunk beds for the girls and embarked on a year-round vacation. Before long, he parted ways with his wife and family, too. For the better part of the next decade, Casing had no fixed address. He foraged for food and picked up odd jobs, freelance writing, fruit picking, security, and selling dentistry equipment by mail order.
That's interesting. I
Right?
don't
And
know how you get into that.
He would eventually describe this time as having a, quote, rambling, tax-evading lifestyle.
I told
Right.
you, man, you get into this stuff and suddenly it's like, what are taxes anyway?
Yeah, I don't believe it. I don't believe in taxes. You know,
This is-
we're
this
gonna
is-
have to do some sort of tax T-shirt because all of our
Yeah.
guys we cover like don't believe in taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course not. But I will say I did evade taxes for a little while, but that's just because I was poor, and eventually it was forgiven.
They caught up with you. You paid them off.
No,
And-
they
what?
didn't. Well, they sort of caught up with me. I started paying taxes again. They're like, "Hey, you owe taxes, so you're not getting a refund." I was like, "Fine, okay, you can keep the refund. I'll just keep filing taxes." And then one day it was like, "We're good," and it was like, you know,
Yeah, but you didn't
was like
like.
oh no, I didn't like live on.
You didn't
a-
Al Capone that shit.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't like, but I did like. I was a what you call it? I was a quote independent contractor that I was supposed to pay my own taxes, but I was like 23 or some shit like that. So it's like, nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna pay those dirty taxes.
They were just lucky. They were
It's-
just lucky you weren't day drunk all the time.
No
It's
kidding.
funny you say you were 23 when you did this because I got something to talk about 23-year-olds and the moon landing later. So let's go on. So he basically Bill Coopered it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll get to that in a second. But, you know, for a time, he would publish work with Straight Arrow Press, who at the time were the publisher of Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh shit!
Wow.
And his first major book was The Ex-Urbanites Complete and Illustrated Easy Does It First Time Farmer's Guide.
So this is a book to tell suburbans how to farm.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, you know...
Do you want to go
it's-
off the grid?
Go off grid,
Yeah.
man.
He ended up like getting remarried, and he, you know, just kind of like living off the land, kind of hippie-ish, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Uh huh.
You know, so, you know, and overall, this is fairly harmless. Like, that sounds like a pretty fun book,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean,
But,
it's not the Turner
then-
Diaries.
Yeah, exactly. It is definitely not the Turner Diaries. You know, so fairly harmless, but then he starts kind of moving into like the conspiracy area.
Oh boy.
Now, if you think that William Casing sounds a lot like Bill Cooper, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Much like Behold a Pale Horse, which is Bill Cooper's book, We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion swindle, became a foundational text for the rapidly growing conspiracy crowd of the 1970s. So, in writing this book, he used his former access to technical documents for the Mercury, Gemini, Atlas, and Apollo programs. He would come to suggest that it was not technically feasible to land astronauts on the moon and return them to Earth, but got to remember that he left in 1963.
I was gonna say
at that time. Yeah.
So the Alan Shepard flight was in '61 to give some reference. So he left 2 years after. And let's hear
and that's the one that broke the sound barrier.
No,
right?
that's the first suborbital flight for America. Yuri Gagarin's flight was also in '61.
Okay, so but yeah, I mean, this is like
it's 2 years after Yuri Gagarin did the first orbital flight.
Right, and he has a point. Using that information at that time where we were at, there was no way we were going to get to the moon.
Yeah,
but he left.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of getting to the moon, though, have you seen? You've probably seen The Right Stuff, the movie, right?
It's been a while, but yes.
What you need to do is you need to see the TV show that they did. It's on Disney Plus, but they're doing a drama series about like the Mercury program.
Right.
It's quite good. It's a lot of fun. I was just checking it out.
I mean, I have seen some of From the Earth to the Moon, so.
So, again, he left prior to when things like when the shit hits the fan.
Yeah, you know what I mean? He pretty much left prior to the quickening.
So what you're saying
the program
is this motherfucker is the George Best of the space program. Like he left before the Beatles became famous.
Yeah, 61 is also when Kennedy gave his speech.
Yeah.
So they were still in the design
go
phase
to the moon
before
and do those other things.
Yeah, they were still in design phase and drawing, and so he obviously
hadn't ramped up.
Yeah, he didn't start seeing the crazy shit that would come from
that. So that's a huge problem with his approach so far.
Yeah,
right.
So, a Smithsonian Magazine article by Roger Lanius, a former Smithsonian and NASA employee, describes Casing's theories quite accurately, stating, quote, his rationale offered poorly developed logic, sloppily analyzed data, and sophomorically argued assertions. God damn. That is like, that's a burn, dude.
Yeah, that's
like, that is like the most distinguished, nice way to say that this guy is a complete fucking idiot.
I mean, shit, I feel called out.
That's professional speak for this guy's full of shit.
Yeah.
I feel shame just reading it.
He used the term floppy.
Yeah, sloppily analyzed data and sophomorically argued assertions. I think that's the one that hits me the hardest.
Oh yeah,
God, this sounds like when they threw the Ghostbusters out of college at the beginning of the movie.
That's saying that a high school debate team could probably take his reasoning apart.
Well, that is exactly it. That is such a good diss on this whole thing.
Holy shit, that's man. Of course, that's someone in the establishment. So the people that are following behind, they're in the conspiracy.
Former NASA employee. Sure.
Mm-hmm. What does NASA stand for, David?
I'm sure there's a joke here.
Never a straight answer.
Oh shit. Well, that's probably comes from this whole conspiracy.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. So here's the thing about the moon landing, conspiracy that Casing started. It's probably a joke. It started as a joke. So I told you that he eventually, I told you that he eventually got a new wife. Her name was Ruth. While he was on his travels, he befriended a one John Grant, an unhoused heroin addict and Vietnam vet.
Okay.
So he's a bit of a character.
Yeah.
Grant, according to the Darren King article that I referenced, suggested that Casing could write something outrageous, quote, like we never went to the moon.
Oh, shit. He did it on a dare.
Fucking smack addicts.
Yes. So, skepticism of the moon landing was not something wholly unique to Casing, obviously. In one 1970 survey, 54% of residents in a Washington, D.C. community indicated that skepticism of the moon landings never happened. Yeah. 54% of the community didn't believe in the moon landings in 1970.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's because
So-
they didn't go with Jesus.
Right. So in 1974, the same week Nixon resigned, Casing signed a deal to write We Never Went to the Moon, originally intending it to be a satirical novel.
Really? You know what this is sounding like? The Book of Mormon. That it was, it was going to be a fantasy book, and then he is like, wait.
So in one fun synchronicity, part of Casing's inspiration was the Stanley Kubrick film Doctor Strangelove.
God damn it.
And we're going to talk about Stanley Kubrick when we talk about the conspiracy.
Yes.
So then, one of the things he mentioned that he was inspired by the report from Iron Mountain, as well as the film Executive Action. So the report from Iron Mountain was a satirical leak of a suppressed government document. It was like a book that was like, the secret government documents, that sort of thing. So it's a parody. That was
Okay.
one of the things that inspired him. Have you ever seen Executive Action?
I haven't.
It is a movie. All right, so you've seen JFK, right? The movie JFK, Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
It was basically just JFK, but made in the 1970s.
Oh, okay.
It was a film that was so controversial, it was pulled through from theaters like the week it premiered.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it was about the Kennedy assassination, and it posited that there was a government conspiracy to kill Kennedy, which is like really crazy to have that like in 1970 something.
Yeah, like that soon afterwards.
Yeah. So, despite the intent of the book as a satirical work, Casing found himself drinking the Flavor Aid and would come to believe his own claims.
Thank you for saying Flavor Aid, by the way.
Yes, I have that as a pet peeve. It was not
Yes.
Kool-Aid, it was fucking Flavor Aid.
God damn it, y'all. He was not putting forward that extra 3 cents for Kool-Aid.
You got a cult to run. You run those on pennies.
Yeah, no. You take care of them pennies, them dollars take care of themselves.
So I just want us to take that in that like what started as a joke, what likely started as a joke, became one of the most influential conspiracy theories in American history that is still haunting us today.
God.
And is probably a direct connection to all the other shit we're dealing with right now.
Fuck.
It's horrid to think about.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't, you can't lay it all at their feet, but it's definitely kind of given, I don't know, I wouldn't say fertile ground.
gave it a boost.
It enabled, maybe?
Well, and here's the thing. I like that you put that idea of enabling because part of the issue is like this was in the 1970s. The 1970s is one of the darkest decades in American history, and conspiracies run rampant in the 1970s. I have in my outline here, shit was popping in the 1970s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I make the claim that like the 1970s, with the exception of the mid to late 1960s, might be the most influential period of time in modern U.S. history. I understand that this is kind of controversial with the fact that the bulk of the history book civil rights movement ran through the 50s to the mid 60s. But I argue that the direct grappling with these issues in the 1970s, that kind of aftermath, combined with the political intrigue of the Nixon administration, several assassinations, the legacy of the Vietnam War, and the awakening to the darker side of world power would have a more profound effect on the American psyche.
Oh, yeah, no. The 70s were when America sort of woke up to a certain level of reality it wasn't okay with, I guess.
Yeah,
The
well,
70s is when America's dog died.
I can see that because, the 60s was getting over, was enabling civil rights, and then the 70s is kind of like there was a lot of people. So there's a video I saw today that's basically because Martin Luther King Day was just a couple days ago, and it basically said that showed a clip of Martin Luther King like in the speech right before his assassination was saying that a lot of white people stood with them in Selma and stuff like that. But they did it more for they didn't for the injustices of people of color being beaten and stuff like that. But they weren't necessarily in line with them for the full civil rights.
Right. And and that's the thing is like,
And so-
okay, if we say that like the civil rights movement like succeeded, and put that in like big emphasis quotes and italics. Like it
Yeah.
succeeded at the end of the 1960s. The 1970s is when it has to be
Shock
put into
waves,
practice.
though. The waves just spreading out and having to deal with it and live with it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not a good time in the 1970s.
A lot of turmoil.
You know, and here's the other thing about the 1970s. It's a fertile time for conspiracy-minded people because very real conspiracies existed and were
Oh, yeah.
proven to have real-world
Coming out.
consequences.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
lots of
And
lots
shit,
of
the-
shady government shit coming
And the
to
fucking
light.
gas crisis was happening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just-
Watergate,
just-
MK Ultra.
Yeah, I was gonna say MK Ultra. You
OPEC.
know, finding out about that.
Yeah.
You
all
know,
the,
you actually
the
have
shady CIA shit.
you know, with OPEC, you have like governments like controlling through an oligarchy, like the distribution of a natural resource that everybody needs. So all of this conspiracy shit is actually happening in the 1970s.
And then you've got like them trying to renegotiate the Gaeti Treaty about how many humans can be abducted from the United States with the I'm sorry, let me move on.
Oh no, I'm with you there. That's
Okay.
very real. So, you know, the very real conspiracies of the 1970s, in conjunction with general growing distrust of government institutions, primed many Americans to look to conspiracies for answers. People like Bill Cooper and William Casing would become the foci for the search for meaning in an increasingly darkening world. So, just how weird the moon landing conspiracies would get, however, nobody would have expected.
Yeah.
But before we kind of get into that, I want to talk about I want to debunk some of those common reasons people believe the moon landing was faked.
Right.
So what's some of the evidence that you guys have heard for the moon landing isn't real because, and then it's some guy at the liquor store telling you, the moon landing never happened because of this.
Well, okay, here's the thing. A lot of the people I meet that don't believe in the moon landing are literally around 23, 24 years old. And
We'll
they're
talk about that.
Yeah, and they're very far removed from it, but like they just don't believe it was scientifically possible to do it back then. They were like, oh, sure, we could probably do it now. But the reasons that I've heard are, like you said, no stars, why's the flag waving, there's no dust.
Well, that's the evidence for it. That's not quite the how. But
Okay. The Van
quote,
Allen
unquote,
belt.
proof. Yeah, the Van
Good that you're
Allen
bringing
belt.
up the evidence, though.
Yeah, but yeah, the Van Allen belt is one of the biggest arguments I always hear.
And then of course, we had to beat the Soviets in the space race, right? Because they were beating us and all the other elements of it, all the other steps, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, let's talk about some of those examples of the evidence, and let's talk about some of those reasoning. So let's talk about the issue with the rippling flag. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things. It's like when you understand why the flag was rippling, and you look at the flag, you see, oh, okay, I see why that's the case.
Yeah, go ahead, tell me, you government shill.
So they're depositing money in my PayPal account as we speak.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure you get your money.
What, you're getting your money now? I'm not getting my money till after this airs.
It's my money, and I need it now.
So, the rippling of the flag is the result of an issue with an extension of a horizontal rod that is in the flag.
Right.
Because the horizontal rod did not fully extend, it creates creases in the flag. Which
Right.
is why it looks like the flag was moving in the photograph. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. And if you look at the flag, you can actually see where the rod is. Because the flag has a very distinct rounded shape across the top of the flag.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how else is going to stand up on,
The moon.
anywhere?
Exactly.
Look at the flag on Earth. A flag on Earth's not going to stand up like that either.
Yeah.
Unless there's a wind. So yeah, if you wanted a flag to always be, stretched out on Earth, even you'd have to have a rod.
So what you're saying is that it wasn't the air conditioning.
It was farts from the dark side of the moon.
Okay, dark
From the moist side. From the moist side of the moon.
Dark, moist farts.
Moon
All right.
farts.
Moon farts. Gotcha.
A little dose of cheese for you.
You'd also think that if they're faking it, they would take air movement into consideration.
My thing is, if they were gonna fake it, they would have faked it better.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Especially if Stanley Kubrick was
I
attached.
swear to
you know
God.
what I mean?
I think a moon landing fake would look a lot better than what we got.
I also love the counter conspiracy that they did hire Stanley Kubrick to film a fake moon landing, and then he forced him to shoot it on location.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that
He,
joke.
he wanted authenticity,
So he
sent
made
to the
them
moon.
go to the moon to film the fake
fake
moon
moon
landing. Yes.
Now let's talk about the issue with no stars in the photograph, because that's always a big thing. You have these pictures on the lunar surface, like, okay, there's no atmosphere, so you got to see stars, but you don't see them.
Yeah.
Now, do you know why?
I do. Kevin.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's got something to do with the reflected light of the lunar surface. But Mike,
Close. So, if you imagine the moon in sunlight is very bright. Like,
Well,
you know,
it shines in the fucking night
Yes.
sky.
yes, so
Brighter than me with my shirt off at night, yes.
they had fucking gold tinted visors. Like, and I'm not talking like just tint, like it was actually
Gold.
vapor deposited
Yeah.
gold on it to, you know, basically be the baddest ass sunglasses ever.
It was basically to prevent snow blindness on the moon.
So,
yeah.
so the film they were using was actually a very fast film because it's so much light. You don't need a, you know, big long aperture to
Yeah.
capture those images. So
Yeah, so the exposure
anybody that knows anything,
short.
yeah, anybody knows anything about photography knows using
yes.
fast film with a short exposure time. You know, you're not going to see stars. Even you know, in the darkest night, you'll just see jack shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, even on Earth.
Yeah.
If provided like an exposure that fast with objects that are that bright,
Even with
then yeah,
nothing
you're not
else-
going to see stars because they're too dim.
Yeah.
And even with nothing else bright swamping out the frame, you'd see nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's exactly it. Again, easily explained.
Now,
I'm detecting a pattern here.
I have one question though. Why was there no dust clouds?
I don't have the answer for that one. I assume Mike does.
So,
Mike?
So, I've not heard a explanation that
It's
I can
all
remember.
fake.
But
It's all fake. He's
so-
got no answers. It's all fake.
No, it's not no answers. It's some conjecture,
Okay.
but it's going off of, you know, my internal logic. Is that there's no air, obviously, or very, 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 very,
Right,
very,
right,
very
right.
little. There is a little bit of atmosphere on the
I
moon,
mean, they did
surprisingly,
kick up some dirt in the footage. So, I mean,
But so, you know, the when you kick up dirt on Earth, it stays aloft longer because of the air. You know, air currents
Right,
keep it up.
right.
And on the moon, there's none of that, so it falls faster.
Yeah.
Back to, you know, the hammer and the feather, you know, drop test.
Yeah.
The dust is just going to come right back down.
now next
Yeah,
week
Mike
we're going
is
to talk
exactly
a little
right.
bit about that.
Because Buzz Aldrin even comments during like the touchdown that you could in the descent footage, like there, you know, there is dust, but it doesn't drift because it like fucking falls immediately back to the surface.
Right.
Now, as for the craters, the reason why is because again we are in a void. The exhaust jet rocket, you know, it fans out into a wider shape, so it distributes the thrust in a larger area, so it doesn't create a concentrated burst of thrust that results in a crater.
Right.
And also the quote, I guess you would call it the topsoil of the moon, the top layer was a lot thinner than I expected.
That's true.
Because one of the things is the lunar lander, it had, at least the first one, I don't know about the subsequent ones, but they had if you'll ever look at them, like they have that kind of plate looking foot, but off of that they have a longer, looks like an antenna that's coming down, that's kind of a contact sensor, but it was also to like see, you know, how deep the,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
dirt
because there was a lot of
they were worried that they would literally sink because they thought, you know, if eons of meteor bombardments
it'd
could have
just be
just
covered in sand,
this
basically.
very fine, you know, deep, like 2-3 meters deep of moon dust. So they
Well,
were,
and then that's one of the concerns. Like, if we're going to go back to the moon, they have to account for that very, very fine dust because that can do damage.
oh,
to-
that dust is also like razor sharp.
Yeah, it's
with
dangerous.
no erosion mechanisms on the moon. The dust, you don't want to breathe that shit. It'll like cut your lungs
It's-
like billions of
It's
little
literally
razors.
billions and billions of razors.
Well, I know not to take my helmet off when I go to the moon because
Oh,
I don't want to get that
thank
dust in my lungs.
God.
Well, it's not only that, because they actually brought it back into the capsule with them because it was like all over their
Yeah.
their,
Oh fuck!
space
Just
suits.
razor rocks just floating around in zero
Yeah.
gravity.
In fact, the designs for the future moon suits, one of the things they have is like where you get into them and out of them, like through the backpack. Like the backpack is basically an airlock. It locks into your vehicle and it swings open. So
you don't
the
have to
suit
bring the
stays
suit in,
outside,
yeah.
and you just crawl into the suit. It's pretty interesting idea.
That's
I know
cool.
kind of like deep sea hard suits have done that for a long time.
Yeah.
Now, another one of those bits of evidence that's always presented by a moon landing denier, the shadows seem wrong. That there's like things that are in shadow seem to cast shadows themselves. Now, Mike is our science guy. I'm very impressed with how he's been answering everything. Mike, do you know why that's the case?
Yeah, Mike. Why don't you tell us what is the case?
So, like I said, the moon is very, very bright in the sun. So let me ask y'all something. If you have a object that's in the sun, it gives off something. What's that thing? Oh yeah, it's called reflected light, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So things that are visible are reflecting light. And it reflects, the reflected light, lights other things up.
Yeah. Well, also, it's a highly reflective lunar surface. So
No, not really.
No. Shut up.
Well,
Okay,
I'm not
me
saying
shut
shut
up.
up, but I'm saying, do you know what color the surface of the moon is?
No.
Look at your local asphalt road.
Oh, really?
Moon has the same albedo as asphalt.
Wow.
It's dark,
Damn.
but that's how bright the moon is. I mean, you see an asphalt road, but in the hot, bright summer sun, it's very shiny.
I gotcha.
Yeah, it's the same thing. The reason why, like, Earth isn't as reflective, I would guess, is because of our atmosphere that's
Yeah,
diffusing that light.
Yeah, the atmosphere traps some of the light, and also, like you said, diffuses it too. As far as like if you look like per square meter or whatever, take a certain area of the surface of the moon and the surface of the Earth is giving off less light from that area just because of absorption from our atmosphere, whereas the moon is just chucking all that light back out.
Is naked.
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. I'm glad I didn't have to read my whole. I didn't have to read my whole spiel that I wrote.
Awesome.
So, it's good to have Mike around.
I'm good for a couple of things.
Yeah.
Another great piece of evidence that they present is the fact that there's like no camera, and what they mean is that like in photographs, they say that you can't see the camera held by Neil Armstrong.
It's attached to a suit, isn't it?
That's exactly it. But I think they're expecting like someone having like a fucking Polaroid camera, like a disposable camera. I don't get it either. But these are the claims that they make.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is one picture. I mean, of course, they'll say it's staged, but there's one picture of like Neil Armstrong being, but the picture was taken by Buzz Aldrin. But you can look in the reflection of his gold helmet and see Buzz standing there with the camera, on his chest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the most famous photos. But no, apparently there was no camera.
Yep. No camera.
I don't fucking know, man. This shit drives me nuts.
Yeah, no, I understand. So I think the general idea you're getting at is that all of this is easily debunked.
Yeah, so the idea of the missing data, so
Right.
the Apollo 11 mission, that was a very chaotic mission. Telemetry tapes like disappear sometimes. Mm-hmm. The transfers, like the quality of the broadcast, because what happened was in Australia, they like live recorded the feed of the video.
Yeah, they
as
had
it was being broadcast out to Americans.
Yeah, they had it on a screen and a camera pointed at the screen. because
Yeah,
of the way it was being done. Right, the way they had to
you know,
do it.
and then some like the missing data for some of like the landers and that sort of thing. Some of the blueprints, they were from private contractors like Grumman and Boeing. Those things become
Right.
lost.
Yeah.
I worked for about 6 months at an engineering company, and they lose shit all the time.
Well, you want to talk about the data though. Ooh, I mean, when I read about how they so you think of Mission Control as this giant, high tech, all these screens and stuff.
Not back then.
Like all those screens that they were showing, I mean, yes, they had important information, but it's not like it was, computers and all this showing. Like the behind the scenes at NASA for the moon landings to show all that data was just the most Rube Goldberg shit you can imagine.
Oh yeah, no. I just picture it the equivalent of people running around behind the cameras screaming.
No, I mean they had these reprojection systems so okay, you can think of the famous pork chop plots where you show there's the Earth, and it has the lines that go across the Earth to show the orbits, right? And there's
Right.
an icon, like a little spaceship thing showing the position of the spacecraft. Well, all that was done. If you ever used an overhead projector at
Yes.
school with transparencies, it's kind of the same thing. They literally had, a transparency and then a little, spaceship transparency that was superimposed over it. It was this whole system that, while it worked and it, did what it was supposed to and showed the information it needed to,
It was garbage.
it wasn't garbage. It was revolutionary for its time, but also it was very primitive, rudimentary. Yes, it was not.
Computers.
Well, it was computers, but it was computers in the sense that
It added up
they
numbers.
added numbers. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, there was no VGA port and
Yeah, no,
all
there's
that.
no
Yeah.
computer video. I
No.
mean, like you said, so the video signal that they received from Apollo on the moon was a completely new format. They couldn't just pipe that to the television networks because it wasn't the right format. It was like a lower scan rate, a lower resolution. And like you said, the only way for them to get that video to
The
networks
televisions.
was to basically plop a camera in front of a projection screen.
Yep.
Which is why it looks like crap.
And also, a lot of places got their rebroadcast was basically from that video stream to a film recording to another video output.
This sounds like watching
It was a
anime
hack
in
job.
the 80s.
Yeah, no, it was just this whole. I mean, it was state of the art at the time, yes, but when we think of, I think our vision of state of the art now is very
Warped.
is warped. It makes us think that they were a lot more advanced than they were.
No, this is the 60s, man. It was the 60s.
I
It
mean,
was just
like,
everything
I-
was hobbled together with tape, spit, and hope.
I think my smartphone has more processing power than the Mission Control.
Oh, no, your smartphone, God, your
Yeah.
smartphone
Yeah,
is
no.
your smartphone has more processing power than a supercomputer in the 80s or 90s. I mean,
Yeah.
it is. I could rant about this for on a good while about the smartphone is
Insane, honestly.
it's this supercomputer that we would like.
We
In
would
the
have
60s,
lost it.
In the 60s, it's like Star Trek levels of technology. We use it to watch cat videos.
And we always say cat videos.
Well, yeah, because
we're
it's
that
the most
trained.
Because it's the
Or
one
Wordle.
thing that everyone has watched, and it's also the most useless, but still, entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna deny that I watch cat videos. It's
Sure.
useless. It's fun.
But let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get into like one last little bit of evidence as to like why people believe the moon landing is a hoax. Probably the
Yeah.
most sinister, and that's with the suggesting that people have been killed for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, perhaps most sinister are the claims that NASA and our larger government body has people killed because of their knowledge of a secret that, like, people that we faked the moon landing. So, one such claim is that NASA technician and safety inspector Thomas Barron was murdered because he was going to reveal the moon landing was fake. Adding fuel to this conspiracy is a reported disappearance of Barron's 500-page report of the Apollo 1 fire. So, again, coincidence, shit gets lost. But, with his death in a traffic accident, the missing 500-page report, that fuels the conspiracy. Someone who's already thinking something's up is going to go, aha.
Well, yeah, of course.
Well, again, coincidence is the breeding ground of conspiracy. So, I mean, that's how it works.
So other claims identified 10 deaths during the Apollo program as examples of NASA cleaning house. This includes the deaths of the astronauts during the Apollo 11 fire on January 27th, 1967. Coincidentally, January 27th is my birthday. So I share an anniversary with 3 dead astronauts, which is sad.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Apollo.
Yeah,
the Apollo 1 fire. And then here's the thing. Casing, he doesn't just stop with the moon landing. He supports several other conspiracy theories, such as the claim that the Challenger explosion was no accident. that apparently those astronauts were going to reveal that the moon landing was fake.
And they had a teacher on board that would have been just like, she would have blown the whole thing wide open, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can't even get my students to do their reading. There's no way that a teacher's going to be able to blow the secret wide open.
No.
He also believed that the CIA was brainwashing people. He wasn't too far off there.
Well, that's different. That's yeah.
He believed the CIA was poisoning people. Again, not too far off.
Yeah, I mean, there's that whole San Francisco thing.
And then that the media was trying to control us. Again, not too far off. A broken clock is right twice a day.
Again, I gotta find somebody else to agree with about this.
Exactly. The minute you start using dead astronauts to support your bullshit,
I gotta back out.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. Just take me off your mailing list. So, a major reason why people proposed the moon landing was fake was because of the nature of the space race itself.
Being political.
Beating the USSR to the moon would be seen as a crowning achievement of the U.S. space program. There's that, that meme of the guy who's celebrating, he's got his medal, he's drinking that bottle of champagne, he's kissing the woman, and then he's on the 3rd place bronze pedestal. Yeah, there's a meme of that, but it's with 9 other people, and he's in 10th place, and he's representing the U.S. getting the moon, and the 9 other people are the USSR. so yeah, it was a big win for America. It was definitely a shot in the arm.
Now, I will say, sorry, my southern accent came out. I was just going to say, I will say that one of the things they've said is the reason the USSR never got to the moon and their space program hasn't worked out is because you can't actually do it because America didn't actually do it. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Nothing to do with the political environment, lack of money, people starving to death.
And then there's a thing about the radiation belt. It's the Van Iver belt.
Van Allen belt.
Van Allen belt. So there's all these different reasons, all of which can, if you're able to sit down with a person and talk to them and get it through their skull, they'll go, okay, I see your point. I'm not going to believe you, but I see why you believe what you believe.
Right.
One of the oddest wrinkles to this whole thing is how Hollywood gets involved.
Good.
So there was a movie about a mission to Mars that would sow more doubt into the legitimacy of the moon landing.
Capricorn 1.
Starring
O.J. Simpson.
Yes. I was going to do. I'm just going to barrel through and read my thing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm so excited you brought it up.
Capricorn 1 was a 1978 thriller about a faked Mars landing conducted by the government. It features Elliot Gould, James Brolin, Sam Waterston, Hal Holbrook, Telly Savalas, and future murderer O.J. Simpson.
That's great.
So, obviously a movie about the faking of a space mission absolutely fired up the conspiracy theorists.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So the writer-director of Capricorn 1, Peter Hyams, did not outright claim that the Apollo 11 landing was faked. but he was inspired by a level of perceived artifice regarding early missions and how they were shown. So I'm going to quote him here because this is very interesting.
Okay.
However, there was something on the news about a space flight. They would cut to a studio in St. Louis where there was a simulation of what was going on. I grew up in the generation where my parents basically believed it was on. If it was in the newspaper, it was true. That turned out to be bullshit. My generation was brought up to believe television was true, and that was bullshit too. So I was watching these simulations, and I wondered what would happen if someone faked a whole story. So, I mean, he does have a point. You can't trust everything.
Yeah.
But he's drawing the wrong conclusion here. Like, he has the numbers. He's got the answer 5, but he's adding like 3 and 4 to get 5. And even though 5's the right answer, somehow he has a point, but he's also misguided in a sense.
He's off base, but he's not wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Like
So,
that
part of the reason the movie was even greenlit was in the wake of the Watergate scandal, where like Americans were primed to believe like conspiracy shit. It's like, oh shit, like, hey, look, we got a president who's leaving. There is a big conspiracy. Maybe people would want to see a movie about a conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The disenfranchisement of Americans after like Vietnam.
Yeah, and the thing is, the film and the footage of it are still used for illustrating claims of forgery regarding the moon landing, even today. Like they're still using footage from that movie. However, this was not the only bit of Hollywood that would play out in this conspiracy. We're going to get to my favorite bit.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Stanley Kubrick theory.
Let's do that.
Now, to say Stanley Kubrick's 1968 masterpiece, 2001: A Space Odyssey, revolutionized the portrayal of space in film is an understatement.
Oh, yeah.
The film, for its time, was one of the most scientifically accurate portrayals of space with incredible attention to detail, as is common in the work of Kubrick. Like, the guy has an eye for detail.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
if he makes mistakes, those mistakes are on purpose, like in The Shining. The film was so authentic that many conspiracy theorists developed the idea that maybe Stanley Kubrick had directed the moon landing broadcast for NASA.
Here's the thing. I get that, Just saying. I get
I'm just going to
that.
say NASA couldn't afford Kubrick.
Oh, God, no. Jesus Christ.
But, this realism that inspired this theory, it comes from the fact that Kubrick did his research, his research, because like I've looked at like Kubrick documentation for like The Shining, and the copious amount of notes and illustrations that he does. Like the dude does his fucking research.
Oh, yeah, no. He obsessive.
Obsessive is a great way to describe Kubrick. He also hired actual astronomical artists and aerospace engineers to ensure he got things right. Believe it or not, he actually consulted people who knew their shit.
Yes, no, I mean, that's the thing about 2001. If you watch it compared to other science fiction films of the time, 2001 feels authentic.
Yeah, and it's down to all those little details. Like, for example, the spiraling room. Because there's a logic to it. It makes sense why the room would be spiraling like that. So all of this is like fuel for that.
Yeah.
So that theory has existed for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's recently picked up steam, however. So around 2015, clips of an interview with Stanley Kubrick where he reportedly admits to filming the moon landing circulated online. This clip, however, is devoid of context. So this clip comes from a documentary by T. Patrick Murray titled Shooting Kubrick. And here's the most insane part. The interview is not with the real Stanley Kubrick.
What?
It's with an actor.
What?
T. Patrick Murray never interviewed Stanley Kubrick. And if you look at the actual footage, it doesn't even look or sound like Stanley Kubrick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but this thing gets spread on fucking YouTube, and people are like, "Oh, see Stanley Kubrick talking about like how he faked the moon landing," and it's like, "Oh, like,
What the
it's
fuck?
upsetting." Yeah,
That is
so
that,
yeah, and that's floating around like since 2015.
I've got some footage of someone going into outer space that was faked that you might find interesting. It's called Fraggle Rock. And this character called Traveling Matt goes out into, quote, outer space. You might enjoy it.
So I really wish I had watched this video before we recorded, because I just thought of it while we were talking. There was a video I watched several years ago. I linked it in the Discord if you want to throw it in like show notes or whatever. But it's by writer-director S.G. Collins, who basically deconstructed the filming hoax, like how basically the technology of the time wasn't good enough to, do it in any, like video. We couldn't have done it in video because, video at the time was basically was pioneered by NASA for this flight anyway.
So what you're saying basically is it was easier to go to the moon than to fake going to the moon.
One of his arguments is like they say the lack of gravity was simulated by doing slow motion.
No.
Well, to do slow motion in video at the time was basically impossible. Like, you could have done it with a film camera, but
this was video.
Yeah, and
broadcast.
Yeah, you would have to basically pre-record everything, because you'd have to have the negatives developed and all that.
Right.
Just down cranking video was not possible.
Yeah.
But it's a great couple of videos. I really wish I had watched them, but
yeah.
We'll put a link up in the show notes.
Yeah, and I have all of my articles linked in the outline, so we'll be able to throw those links in there as well.
Absolutely. You guys I'll get those.
But, let's move into our final section here. We're coming to an end.
Okay.
Let's talk about the fake moon landing today.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
wait.
What if I were to tell you? What people think about the moon landing today. Yes.
Got confused.
We've not gone back yet.
You're talking about like, well, they faked it last week, really?
Retroactively faked it.
What if I were to tell you that there are people in the year of our Lord, 2022, as in 22 years into the 21st century, that do not believe the moon landing ever happened?
I completely believe that.
I believe you, unfortunately.
I know some.
So, an Ipsos poll in 2019 surveyed Americans with the question, quote, "In your opinion, do you believe the U.S. successfully landed a manned mission on the moon in 1969, or do you believe the moon landing was staged?" Now, 6% of total respondents believed to some degree that the moon landing was staged. The most shocking result was in the millennial age group, where 11% of those surveyed believed in the staged moon landing theory to some degree, with Gen X having about a 6% belief and boomers with about a 3% belief in this total sample.
See, you mentioned earlier that we're like 3 generations out from the moon landing now.
Mm-hmm.
And to some extent, that kind of, that's part of the reason. I mean, like, because, like, for us, growing, me and Mike especially, like, growing up, the moon landing was shit that happened. It was history. Mm-hmm. Like, World War II is history. But these millennials and and whatever the next generation is, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's ancient history, man.
Well, and that's why you have millennials and Gen Z now who are saying they don't believe the Holocaust was a thing that happened.
I was just about to say that. Is that it's not, just the moon landing, because a lot of, I was going to bring up the Holocaust, that like almost like 1 in 10.
And part of the reason is distance and not living in the aftermath of it.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, yes, we're always living in the aftermath of it, but, like, it was much closer. Like, World War II, when I was born, was 30 years ago. Now it's like, we're heading into, like, almost a century coming up in the future.
So those tie into it, but I think it also has something to do with, not only is it distance from the event, chronologically,
Right.
but also a lack of long-lasting effects from it,
Yeah.
and probably also lack of people that and trust having been affected by it.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with people that were in World War II.
No one denies that the Pilgrims happened, but
No
because
one-
that's we're here. There's direct, I wouldn't even say evidence, but results from
We're
that
here,
happening.
like you said.
So
Well, and the thing with the Pilgrims, that was so long ago in history that, like, I guess people buy it. You know what I mean? So it may be a thing like 100 years from now, everybody's just going to take for granted that we got to them.
But like World War II, no
Right.
one denies that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard. If they don't believe the Holocaust happened,
So-
there is the potential for them to say, "Oh, World War II never happened."
Well, but like I was saying, it's just kind of one of those things that there's obviously direct repercussion from World War II. The Holocaust, while terrible, and I'm not trying to belittle what happened
Right.
in any way, there wasn't, this causal and effect kind of repercussions from it.
Well, for some people, there definitely was.
Well, yeah, obviously that's why. And that was also the other part is if you have a relative that was in the Holocaust, you're not going to deny that shit. If you talk
Like
to your
if you see the fucking
grandpappy,
tattoo,
yeah, you talk
if
to your
see the fucking
grandma or
tattoo on the arm.
grandfather, and they were in a concentration camp, you'd be an asshole to deny that happened to them.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's people that don't have any personal connection to it. And also, there's kind of a fantastical element too. It's like something that just seems like
Surely
it
that
couldn't
couldn't have
happen in your
happened.
worldview.
You mean a literal supervillain just started
Yeah.
killing a large portion of the population? That's like a
Surely that
Marvel
could. That's
movie.
no, that's fake. That's a Marvel movie. That couldn't have happened.
So there's also kind of this worldview thing that has to come into it because for someone that like me that likes science and technology, being a moon landing denier seems a little bit of a stretch because we're
Right.
willing to accept that. But for someone who doesn't give a shit about that,
Yeah.
they'd be like, we couldn't have gone to the moon. It's all the way up there. I mean, I can't even get, across town without, all this traffic.
Well, the response that kills me when I've spoken to younger people about this is just this sort of flippant. I just don't think they had the technology to do it. And they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's larger social issues we can talk about here.
Well-
but, just like the numbers that I just kind of gave you guys, like they're shocking to me, but they're not entirely surprising, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I get
No.
you.
And it's certainly an improvement over NASA's reputation in the 1970s, where some polls indicate up to 30% of respondents believed to some degree that the moon landing was a hoax. So NASA's doing pretty well, all things considered. Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what else isn't helping belief in the moon landing is fucking History Channel.
Well, and it's a number of people who are perpetuating the theory as well. People who have a lot of influence, which we're going to talk about. So, even today, people still believe the moon landing was fake. So let's talk about Buzz Aldrin for a moment. He does not believe the moon landing is fake.
I should hope not.
Could you imagine
But-
going to the moon and coming back and then not believing it actually happened?
We were on a sound stage in Burbank.
I
looked a
shouldn't
lot-
have. I shouldn't have had those edibles at liftoff.
It looked a lot like the moon, but I'm pretty sure I wasn't on the moon. I mean,
Hey.
otherwise I wouldn't have been able to take a piss, would I?
I think it was a Burning Man.
I think it was in Fresno.
So, do we know about Bart Sibrel?
I don't know who
Sibrel,
that
Sibrel.
is.
Okay, so Bart Sibrel arranged for an interview with Aldrin for his conspiracy film
Oh.
Astronauts Gone Wild.
Right. Wait,
Which is a ridiculous
Gone
title.
wild.
what?
Astronauts Gone Wild.
Okay, so now I'm just picturing Buzz Aldrin showing his boobs.
in a string bikini.
Oh my god.
So, Sibrel confronted Aldrin with supposed footage from the Apollo 11 thing. Eventually, things kind of went south, resulting in Aldrin punching Sibrel.
Yes.
God bless you,
I did
Buzz
not remember
Aldrin.
the name, but I remember
Yeah.
the
We
confrontation.
all remember the punch heard around the world. I just didn't remember who got punched.
Now, Sibrel, like any good con man, has made quite a grift for himself peddling his moon conspiracies and interviewing astronauts under false pretenses. He's one of those assholes. Who will, like, try to get to like, he's like a very, like, unfunny Borat.
I was going to say he's like an even shittier version of Michael Moore, but okay.
Fair enough. He's so committed to this grift that he has produced 4 films, all revolving around the Apollo 11 program and the theory that the moon landing was faked. The one good bit of news here is that as of 2019, his YouTube channel was demonetized.
Yes.
So, hey, that's great.
Yeah.
But
it's
I'm
still
gonna
there.
make things worse for us now. All right.
Oh no.
I gave you a little sweet. Now it's time for the sour. So from this Rolling Stone article, we have this quote about a particularly popular YouTuber.
Oh, no.
Shane Dawson, for instance, a hugely popular vlogger with more than 22 million subscribers, has a video in which he promotes the idea that the moon landing was faked by the government. While he doesn't explicitly say he believes NASA faked the moon landing, he does say that it would not be a shock because the government fakes so much shit. I mean, we've talked about 9/11, we've talked about crisis actors. Why wouldn't the moon landing be faked? Why wouldn't we fake that just to win over other countries? It makes you wonder, have we actually ever been to the moon? And this video has been profitable for Dawson. According to Vox, he may have earned anywhere between $3,500 to $28,000 on it based on the ad revenue.
Buzz Aldrin's dead, right?
That's a good question. Is Buzz still with us?
Because if he's not dead, I want to do a world tour with him just punching
Nope,
influencers.
he's still alive.
Yes,
92 years
okay.
old. Let's go
All right.
find me this shit. Buzz
We're gonna
Aldrin
do
put-
it, man.
Trying not to do a lot
Buzz.
of punching, but,
Well, we'll drive
We'll
him
give him,
around.
we'll give him a baseball bat.
There you go.
But no, so he said he doesn't. There were other conspiracies he voiced.
9/11.
We talked about 9/11.
crisis
We talked about
actors and-
crisis.
So
yeah.
it's not a far stretch for someone like that. But yeah, the fact to have a platform like that. I mean, social media.
Oh, it gets so much worse.
Social media in general, I guess, has been.
Wait. Did you just say it gets worse?
Of course,
It gets worse.
How does it
gets
get worse, David?
Okay. How much do you guys know about the the NBA?
I don't watch it.
national.
Have you ever heard of Steph Curry?
Nope.
Stephen Curry? One of the biggest NBA players. He posited on a podcast that the moon landing was fake in 2018.
Is he the one that was like did the flat Earth video from the plane?
No.
Okay, because the NBA seems to be full of people with really bad takes.
Well, and here's the thing. Of note, there were several other NBA players on the podcast that agreed with him on this.
Oh yeah. Well, so sports ball players in general, not to like piss them off, but here's guys that went to college but got out of actually doing classwork because the sports are more important than learning.
Well, and there's a little good news here. Number one, like the big problem I have with this is that he had a huge fucking audience, and he does this shit. But he later apologized, saying his comments were in jest after a wave of people pointed out how ridiculous his claim was.
Oh, good.
Curry would later do an Instagram live chat with former astronaut Mark Kelly.
Oh, that's
Overall, the
that's
story
cool.
seems to have a happy ending, with Curry realizing the consequences of firing off claims like this on the internet.
I wish other people would learn that lesson.
Oh, it gets worse.
No. God damn it. You build
In a
us up just to cut us back down.
Yes. In a statement that surprises absolutely nobody, Joe Rogan has been on record saying the moon landing was fake.
Can we just, from now on,
I-
being the host, I want to say that we have to preface his name with professional meathead Joe Rogan.
I vote we fire Joe Rogan into the sun.
Yes.
Fire him at the moon and prove to it that we landed there.
Yeah.
I've listened to several clips of him talking about this.
Everything
He spouts every single insane theory about the moon landing.
Every
Single one.
Every hot take from Joe Rogan just makes me want to die.
Now, coincidentally, he is now peddling conspiracies of epidemiology on his mega hit podcast. Take of that what you will.
Epidemiology?
The viruses and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Oh.
no, he's
Look.
doing. He's not claiming. He's not saying he's anti-vax or anything, but he's just asking questions.
Look, I just want the motherfucker to shut up and take his ivermectin and go lay down, okay?
No, he did. He also did the actual stuff that worked, but he just did everything because why not?
You're killing me, David.
So yeah, arguably one of the most influential people on the internet, which it's terrifying to say that. He
Hey.
denies that we landed on the moon.
I wouldn't even say the internet. I'm saying he's probably
The world.
Yeah.
at least the USA.
And I'm sitting here going, hey, remember when he was on news radio?
Hey, remember when he hosted a show that made people eat worms?
Yeah.
There's so many other examples. So, like in 2005, MythBusters did a special devoted towards the
I
moon
remember
landing
that.
hoaxes to point out, hey, look, this is all bullshit. We need more shows like MythBusters.
Yeah. We need Mythbusters back, I think.
Right. Just last night, Barstool Sports released a podcast episode of one of their shows with a discussion on whether or not the moon landing was fake. Just last night.
Yeah, Barstool. I've not heard great things about.
Yeah, no, they do call her daddy and spitting chiclets and
Yeah.
Even a rudimentary search of moon landing and fake on social media turns up a lot of current active thoughts on the moon landing being fake. I suggest you Google it if you're listening right now. Pop open Google or go to Twitter and search moon landing fake, and you'll see people say, "Hey, I think this moon landing thing is kind of fake."
I would recommend you don't do that. Open a bottle of whiskey
It's the
and
same effect.
medicate until you can deal.
So, I won't be able to get into this larger point I want to talk about until a later episode, but I think this conspiracy is about to make a big comeback in this post-truth QAnon world.
No, you're right. And
Yeah.
I hate that. And Mike's over here just like, he isn't physically facepalming, but like spiritually, I'm getting big oof waves
I
from
think
him.
I've sighed about like 24 times.
Yeah. I'm not a happy man from this.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
all highly upset right now.
And also, it leads me to believe, so, they're wanting to go back to the moon within, the numbers keep changing just
And they keep
because,
pushing it back.
just because, it's the government. And,
Political reasons and just
But-
budgetary reasons.
but hopefully sometime this decade, I wonder, how many people are just going to not believe that, too?
Yeah.
And it'll be some shit like it's all done by Weta.
Yep. So to a very large degree, I feel that there's a direct lineage to how this conspiracy theory has fucked us up on a societal level. And
Yeah.
it's accelerated this misinformation era that we live in. But that is a subject for another time. And that, I'm done. I'm done. For that.
Jesus.
I could kind of lay the flat Earth at their feet.
Yeah. No,
They
that's
dovetail together pretty well.
Flat Earth's been around for a while, but
the
definitely
resurgence
the
and the
resurgence is
popularity.
definitely tied to this.
It's coming back. That dumb you like is coming back in style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my big refutation of the moon landing hoax has always been a couple of things. Like, one, any conspiracy, my general catch-all for any conspiracy is, are there more than like a dozen people involved? Then the odds are one of them couldn't keep their fucking mouth shut about it.
No, I'm with Mike. It is.
The more people you have in on the conspiracy,
Yeah.
the harder it is to keep.
NASA at the time probably had a couple 100,000
Yes,
employees.
not
Yeah.
only just NASA.
And it'd take
NASA,
more than
but
like
all the
7
s-
dead people to
all
keep
the-
this secret.
All the subcontractors, because
Yeah.
the previous trying to think of the word here, the previous mobilization of industry before the moon landing of a similar scale was World War II.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was the fucking war effort.
Like they were asking freaking, you have M1 carbines made by the Singer's not typewriter, a sewing machine corporation and shit.
Yeah.
So this was kind of similar, not as big, obviously, but you had Chrysler making components for the moon landers.
Yeah.
I mean, Chrysler did have an aerospace division at the time, but it was nowhere near as big as some of the other players.
Yeah.
But still, senators being senators and, or Congress people being Congress people, they wanted a slice of pie for their constituents. So that's why you see, like, the Stennis Space Center here in Mississippi, where they tested the engines. There's no logical reason to do that here. You would want to do them in Florida, about where the shit's being built. But the senators wanted some of that pie for their constituents, so it was just spread all over the country. Like
there's
large
too
components,
much infrastructure for it to have been
like
faked.
The whole Gulf Coast is called the Space Coast for a reason, because dotted all along it, from Texas to Florida, are various places where the larger components were built because it was easier to ship them by barge.
Right.
Through the
But how come there are no
intercoastal
stars in the
waterways.
photograph, man?
I know. I'm just going by this. So all these hundreds of thousands of subcontractors that are making titanium bolts and everything.
All that
sure,
they just dumped that shit at the bottom of the ocean and just did a conspiracy.
Exactly. You can say they built that for no reason. Well, obviously they built I would say obviously, but lots of people saw, like thousands of people saw those rockets launch live, like out there, standing there.
In person.
So, I'm sure some conspiracies say, oh, that was fake too, but, let's call that whatever. So even if they just built these giant rockets to go over the horizon and then fall into the ocean, that's still a lot of fucking money.
That it's cheaper to just fucking go to the moon.
So that's one part of it. That's just my general conspiracy. But also my big moon conspiracy refutation is the Soviets. If we fake this shit, they would be calling it on us like no tomorrow. They'd be like,
oh, yeah, no.
comrade,
Totally.
you didn't actually go to the moon. I mean, they
saw you making it.
Khrushchev would just be slinging shoes left and right, man.
They were monitoring us so closely that if there was any room for us to not have gone there, they would have been all over just slinging that mud everywhere. Been like
a Russian asset would have stood up, be like, "I knew you guys were full of shit," right in the middle of mission control.
Yeah, no, they would have just brought the pain on us for faking
what is this funky bullshit? What are you doing?
Because I mean, they had a competing program. And that's the other thing, is that if ours was fake, they stopped theirs because their rockets kept blowing up and we beat them to it. So they figured, well, there's no reason to keep going. But if we had faked it and they knew it,
they would have
kept going, got there and see like, hey, look.
We're actually here. There's no flag here. We put our own flag here. We drink vodka. Oh, shit, open helmet.
So...
yeah, no, seriously.
The Soviets are the biggest heel, I think, to this conspiracy.
I agree.
They hated us. They still hate us.
But even fucking think about that till you said it. That's a really good point, Mike. So, God, what a fucking nightmare of a conspiracy that's led to Hell World.
Well, I wouldn't say it led to it, but it definitely didn't help anything. It's a one stepping stone on the path.
Yeah, all right,
and that's why we need to do that like genealogy where we just kind of draw those links, because I think
genealogy bop.
It's becoming more important that we kind of fight this stuff where we can.
Yeah. And when we first started this show, I was dead set against doing like conspiracies like this, but like now I'm like, we kind of gotta do it just for our own sanity. So I realize it's not weak and weird, but David, just cheer me up. Can X give it to me?
All right, let me see if I can find something.
Because like I feel like we need X to go and give it to you.
I got one. Okay.
It'll also round it out to 2 hours.
So it's a picture of a big fat nug, marijuana.
Okay.
And the thread is Does smoking marijuana help or hinder spiritual growth in any way? Might not be the right question. I'm currently healing my body from an injury I had 6 months ago,
Okay.
and I'm doing this physically through stretching and mentally through meditation and subliminals. I find meditating while high to be more enjoyable as I am able to focus better on what I want. I don't know if it's the right thing to do, which is why I bring this up here. Anyways, is it beneficial? How have you used it? Should it be used at all?
Okay, well, I think all three of us have had very different experiences with
Substances.
like that. I know I discovered that I am a thin shell between existence and non-existence. I am a black void full of screaming demons. And I personally found my spirituality shrank. So I've had not great experiences with this stuff. Mike,
Mike.
you just
was-
chill.
Yeah, I would say it
He
was
just chills and giggles.
it was interesting, but it was not had no long-term impact on my spirituality. Like, music was really cool,
Okay.
but it's also really cool being drunk.
Yeah. Yeah, music is awesome when you're drunk.
So I'm not going to get into too specifics because I'm applying for a full-time teaching job. let me just phrase that.
This guy,
Having had such an experience,
a long
it just
time
put me
ago.
it put me into an existential crisis. Like, I apparently did not do well.
Yeah, wow, that's Kevin's first
Yep.
try.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I did not enjoy it. The second time, we just sat there watching TV and had a good time. Third time, I don't even remember coming home.
I'd say not being alone helps, and lower dosages helps.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
being not
I
an
think
expert
I
at
may
all.
have bitten off more than I can
Yeah,
chew.
that seems to be the rule, because I know Kevin the first time,
I had like a brownie the size of my head.
and it was way too.
Oh
much.
no! And you ate the whole thing?
Uh-huh.
Fuck.
Yeah, no, it was a nightmare for like
he
48 hours.
Like, for the first week, he said, "I'm never doing that again."
And I did it again, and we just watched westerns and like Kolchak the Night Stalker and shit.
Oh man,
That was-
doing that and watching Kolchak would be
like-
fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, no, that was great.
Like a lot
just do that and watch Columbo too.
Oh, I love Columbo.
I'd say, like a lot of things like that, especially when you're not used to it, being in a safe space helps.
Yeah. Well, I was in a safe space, but Kit was like, "Why didn't you tell me what was going wrong?" I was like, "I didn't remember how to talk." So
For me, it was in between bouts of like sobbing into my pillow about the state of the world. I was watching How It's Made.
oh god. Please
I
tell
remember
me you
freaking
watched
out.
the meat slurry.
Yeah, there was one thing that they were making, and I got really concerned because I'm like, that seems really dangerous. Why are they doing this?
God, I kind of want to get high and watch How It's Made.
Dude. Yeah.
It's actually, now that I could probably tolerate the stuff a little better. Not that I'm going to if
No.
my employers are listening. How It's Made would be great for that.
Yeah, no, I think small dose, How It's Made. Yeah, that'd be okay.
I think what blew my mind was watching them like form mold the plexiglass for a boat.
Oh, Christ.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I remember
"Oh,
that
fuck."
episode. So, what are some of the responses to that?
The first reply fucks up your aura, fucks up your memory, fucks up your body. You should stop, but you won't.
I agree with one of those. The memory thing's no joke.
Yeah, no,
But the other
Aura?
Aura.
If you're addicted, it equals bad. If you consume, it equals good.
What?
Yeah,
If you're
that's-
addicted,
if you're
it's
addicted, it's
bad.
bad.
If you consume,
It's good.
so
So
capitalism's
just
awesome.
consume- Well, so if you consume it without getting addicted, you're fine.
Okay.
I guess that's their message there.
I'm glad I've had nightmare experiences with a lot of stuff because, like, I don't want to get addicted to them. So yeah,
Here's one. I once ate 3 space cookies in bed, eyes closed, lights off. This is good, very mild, but very difficult to get into the secret chamber. Like shrooms will make you see things every time if you do enough. Mescaline is normal difficulty. MJ is harder. It is like HBWR seeds and Amanita muscaria. I can't pronounce. It's a mushroom of some sort. You have to meet it halfway. If you don't even astral project, you might not see anything, even if you take a lot.
So he's talking about the keeper at the gate. Okay, like, because there's actually somebody we work with I want to get on so we can talk about, like, experiences with mushrooms, because everybody always ends up talking about the keeper of the gate and then the entities.
Weird.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's a bunch of people arguing with each other and calling each other slurs. It's 4chan.
It's X in 4chan. That's what's going to happen.
Weed connects with Saturn 420. If you have good karma, you can smoke daily. Wicked people get judged by Saturn and stop. So it's the keeper of the gates.
Yeah, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that. That was actually kind of fun.
A little bit of a palate cleanser.
Yeah, it's like it's the ginger after the
wasabi
the wasabi of the moon landing hoax. And next week we're going to be talking about some less hardcore moon theories that people nonetheless take seriously. And me and Michael tackle those.
Yeah, we got our 2 cents to say.
Chuck into the machine.
So you could see why I was like, no, we kind of need to do a full episode.
No, there's no way we could. Yeah, I'm glad you did this. Of course, I'm also not glad you did this. So, thanks everybody for listening as usual. David, where can they find you?
You can find me on the social media as HP Comic. That is at HPKOMIC. You can also listen to my radio show on Deviant Behavior Radio called The Mutant Hours. And if you're a Spotify user, you can listen to the podcast version of that show where I talk to myself and play music.
Woohoo! Mike, you got anything to plug?
No, but I'm a shadow. I'm a myth.
Plug the Mutant Hours.
You've never heard about me. But look over your shoulder. I'm there.
Oh shit! If you're high, Mike just fucked your brain. Well, me, of course, I'm here. You can also, every Wednesday at noon Central Time, you can listen to Bastard Beats, where I play albums or artists or genres. This week, we just got done with David Bowie's Hunky Dory, which was fun, and no idea what's coming next week on Bastard Beats. Next week on here, of course, more Moon. So, thank you for listening. You can find all of our contact information and everything at supernatpod.rocks or supernaturalselectionpod.com. You can find us on social at supernatpod on Twitter and Facebook. We have a Patreon, which we're getting back up to doing them bonus things. I'm reading Unexplained chapter by chapter. And we'll be doing some more collaborative stuff on there coming up soon. We've just had weird schedules.
I think the next video is my choice.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Oh, yes. I'll find something.
Yeah, we're either going to riff it or we're going to talk about that bullshit. So, yeah. Again, thanks everyone for listening. Your support, I cannot thank you enough for it. Don't forget to leave a review for us, if possible, on whatever your podcatching app happens to be. Give us like a 5-star rating. But most importantly, like Mike has been saying, tell someone about the show. Someone of like mind. Somebody that may live under the overpass. Who knows? But I'm sure you know somebody that would like this show. So just share it wherever. We appreciate it. So yeah. That's pretty much it. So until next week, everyone stay safe and stay. That happened. Everyone stay safe and stay frosty. Goodbye.
Bye.
Vaya con Dios.
To the moon, Alice.
Bang, zoom.